Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Keandra and today we're talking about those different phases of long-term relationships. Now, this topic got so good on TikTok and Instagram that I had to bring it to y'all for the more expanded version. And if you really enjoy and appreciate content like this with information that's helpful and engaging, I would love for you, and it would mean the world to me if you crash that like button. And as a special and extra thank you for you, at the end of each of these phases, I'm gonna give y'all a little trap, which is something that you guys should avoid doing and saying so you won't get sucked into a trap. So let's get into the first one. The first phase of a long-term relationship is the romance phase. And this is the one that is typically glamorized by Hollywood. And I also call this like the drug addiction phase. And we're gonna get into that part in a quick second. But this is very similar to what other people already know as the honeymoon stage. This is when you feel like your partner is all the things, they are everything, they are literally perfect and can do no wrong. And this phase typically begins right when you fall in love. And so this is when all the butterflies are bubbling up. This is when all the googly eyes are happening and you are like, oh my goodness, I'm so in love and I never, ever want to be apart from this person ever again. And so one of the things that we have to remember in this phase is that this is a very immature type of love, and it's centered around infatuation. So it doesn't really have any basis and any foundation to really stand on just yet. And if you are in this romance phase, there's nothing wrong with it. But I want to remind you guys that there are other phases that you will go through and you will understand why the romance phase is just a phase and it doesn't really add much value when you are in a long-term relationship moving forward. And so just a few seconds ago, I talked about the drug addiction part, right? So think about when you fall in love. When you fall in love, your brain and your body does a lot of funky things. And I mean a lot of funky things. But one of the things that it does is that it releases a lot of hormones. And so I call these the feel-good hormones. And it's really the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine that gets shot all up and through our brain and through our body. And that gives us that feeling of being in love and that we're infatuated with. So these are the same exact hormones that float through a person's body when they are addicted to a particular drug. And that's why we equate the love in the romance phase with drug addiction, because some of those things that happens in our body chemically also happens while we are in love. Now, I want you to remember that for this phase, there is a trap, and the trap is dishonesty. So we're not saying, or I'm not saying, that you go around particularly purposely lying to your partner, but in this phase, you haven't really fully revealed yourself. You haven't really fully given and shown all of your cards, right? You intentionally, without even knowing it really, you intentionally hide bits and pieces of yourself because you feel like if you bring all of your cards to the table and show your potential partner or the person you're dating who you are, they may or may not rock with you and they may want to end the relationship. So this particular phase and this romance phase ends when one or both parties feels like there's permanence about to happen. So that means if they want to go to the next level, if they want to be exclusive, if they want to move in together, if they want to get engaged, anything that seems a little bit more permanent, this is when the romance phase typically dies out or completely ends altogether. The next phase is called the power struggle phase. And this is a phase where you really start to see your partner or your potential partner's true colors, and you see all of their flaws and all of the differences that you guys share. They start to shine a little bit brighter, probably as bright as this yellow shirt. It starts to shine a little brighter. So all of those feelings that you were feeling in the romance stage of that they're perfect and they're perfect for you, that tends to dwindle out a little bit, and all you can see are the differences, the flaws, the mistakes, and those things get really heightened. And so in this phase, there is a high percentage of first-time divorces. This is when we typically see a lot of those marriages get divorced for the first time if they are in the 3 to 4 year mark, because they're not really in the phase where they understand autonomy yet, but also trying to nurture the bond. And so it's imperative to be realistic about your partner, who they are and what they do. And what happens in this phase, a lot of people are seeing the shifts and the changes that are happening within their relationship. And so one person is trying to change the partner back, kind of like all the way to the romance stage, and the other person is like trying to run from that, right? So it's like one person is pursuing and one person is resisting. And so they feel like they're losing their sense of self, their sense of autonomy, but they also feel like they may or may not want to continue to have that bond, you know, with their partner. And so it's this dance in a sense, and the dance, it can be a little tricky, and the dance can be a little hard to manage a lot of the times if you're not used to managing differences and disagreements and conflicts and flaws, really not trying to change the other person altogether. So what happens is people either break up or they just survive, right? So they break up and say, nope, don't want to be with you no more. Too many differences, too many flaws. I thought you were perfect. You're not. I don't want to be with you anymore. Or they just survive, meaning their relationship emotionally, spiritually, sexually, physically, it just comes to like a plateau. And so they're literally just managing life and just surviving and getting through it. And we know that that encompasses so many issues that we'll talk about a little later in this video. So for the trap for this one, the trap for this one is force. Because what happens is you're forcing your partner, or trying to force your partner to change and to go back to how they used to be, when really what you should be doing is accepting who they are exactly as they are, because 9 times out of 10, they will not be changing their personality and how they are. So you just have to accept them the way that they are. And if you can't do that, then it's time to do that breakup part, like I talked about just a few seconds ago. The next phase is called the stability phase. This is the phase where both partners come to the realization that they're not trying to change the other person. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. But they also have done the individual work and the work that it takes in this relationship for them to acknowledge mutual love and respect. They have learned how to resolve conflict in a healthy manner. They know how to navigate things when it gets a little tough and difficult. And so they understand they're not fighting each other. They are on the exact same team, playing the same game, trying to win the same goal. This is not that immature type of love that we talked about in the romance phase. What this is very mature. This is the maturity that says it's okay for my partner to be exactly who they are. It's that type of love that has grown over time and that they have been through some things. And they understand that it's perfectly fine for their partner to be different. Different does not mean bad. Different just means different. And so the trap for this one that I want to share with you is boredom. So people in this phase, they are in this good phase. Things are flowing. They understand one another. They're resolving conflict. There isn't this heightened sense of drama all the time. So people kind of just get a little bored. And so my encouragement, if someone is in this phase, would be to keep it spicy, like all the way around. I'm talking about in the bedroom and all the things, okay? So learn how to travel together and share each other's wants, needs, hobbies, fantasies, and all of those things. Stay curious of your partner, because that can help you to navigate to the next phase of this journey. So the next stage is the commitment stage. And by the way, this stage has absolutely nothing to do with getting married, although this is actually the first stage that prepares people for marriage. This will probably be the first stage that we've talked about thus far where they will probably be most prepared for marriage if that was on the table. And so I don't know if you guys ever heard anybody say, I love you, but I don't like you. If you heard somebody say that before, this is the phase that they're talking about. And they're talking about the conscious effort and the intentional effort of knowing and understanding that their partner is human, right? That you love them, that you made a commitment to them, that you want to be with them, all of those things. But they understand that your partner also is going to have shortcomings. You're going to have shortcomings. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to do things perfect as well. And so there's grace. So in this phase, this is where the love and the peace and the joy gets heightened in a sense. And this is the time where people are super eager to go to that next stage and take a further commitment with their partner, because they've already worked through the shenanigans of the romance stage and the shenanigans of the power struggle and all of those ups and downs. And they're at a phase in their life and in their relationship and on their relationship journey where things are actually really going well for the first time, and they want to keep that going. And before I give y'all the trap for this one, I just want to tell you guys that a lot of us actually get married in that first stage, that romance stage that we talked about, before they've ever even thought about being able and knowing how to resolve conflict in a successful manner. And this is why we see a heightened number of divorces, because we get engaged and married in that romance stage when all the butterflies are going, when we're love addicted, right? And the reality hasn't sunken in yet. So if you're technically going to get married, you should get married in this phase and not any of the previous ones. Now, the trap for this one is thinking that all of the hard work is already done. Because you've already been in a space, in a phase where things are going well and there's mutual love and respect and there's fun and there's joy and there's peace, and the conflict is not as heavily intensified as in the previous phases and stages, you just tend to coast a little bit. You tend to be like, oh, we good. I ain't gotta work on myself. I ain't gotta work on the relationship. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. The next and final stage is the bliss and co-creation phase. Now, this is the phase where you have moved out of all of the focus being on the family unit. Say, for instance, you might have older children who are leaving off to college, or you might have younger toddlers and you're moving out of that phase or that stage. Like, it's no longer all of the energy put on a particular individual in a family, but you're moving away towards that to co-creating with your partner. And this is when partners typically do something to better society and to give back to the community. So this is the phase where people might start businesses or give to charities or do some type of volunteer work, but they're not doing those things individually because that's what they want to do as an individual person. They're doing that with their partner together. And so it's important to do something and have some type of shared goals, some type of shared interactions to keep things spicy. So the final trap for this one is giving too much of your time to the outer world and to society, and not really allowing that same time and energy that you're spending with your partner to be directed towards your relationship. So you're busy giving, mission trips, charity, volunteer work, businesses. We're so focused on a greater aspect of life that we forget to nurture the relationship that we have with our partner. So if you have found anything in this video useful and helpful, I am so glad. But I want you to continue your learning and stay tuned for more relationship and mental health videos coming to you weekly. See you later.